Our speakers are Mohamed Abouelezz, Senior Technical Sales Manager at Wolffkran, and Randy Huffman, Vice President at Custom Service Crane Incorporated. Mohamed is based in Dubai and has worked for Wolffkran since 2014, and this year became Senior Technical Sales Manager. He's a doctorate in mechanical engineering from the University of Stuttgart in Germany. Randy works at Customer Service Crane, a Wolffkran dealer in Fisher, Illinois, that rents and services a wide range of construction equipment throughout the Midwest, including tower cranes, hydraulic cranes, concrete pumps. Over to you, Randy and Mohamed.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Randy Huffman with Custom Service Crane. I'm the founder and vice president. We started our company back in 1994 with a little 1964 12-ton Grove truck crane. So I'm honored to be here. When Wolffkran asked me to co-present for this function, I was really hesitant. I told them, you know, there's about 300 people in the room with more knowledge than me on tower cranes, okay? There's a lot of people here that understand where we've came from and how we've got there. When they were persistent. They were persistent in letting me know that I was relatable to normal people. So I don't know if that's good or if that's bad. But anyway, they were persistent enough that I finally said, yes, I'll do it for you. And so I'm honored to be here. But when you take on that obligation, there's other things that happen. They ask you for a bio. They ask you for a headshot. You know, I'm like, what the hell's a headshot? You know, I don't. So I you know, the funny thing is, so I put all this off. They kept asking me, emailing me. Finally, my wife says, go get a professional headshot done. I'm like, okay, well, she's a smart one, so I didn't listen. You know, so the day comes where the email comes, Randy, we have to have your stuff. All right, so I thought I saw on Kelly's that he took like a job site picture. You know, I thought, well, that's me. That's my hard hat. I'm going to put my hard hat on, my high vis. And so I'm in the driveway. It's 90 degrees. Nobody told me. Now, I've never taken a selfie, right? So I don't know if that's because I'm old or what, but I've never taken a selfie. And I'm in the driveway. And nobody told me you could flip the screen around. I'm in the driveway trying to... I'm taking movies of myself. No idea. My 27-year-old daughter, who's a master of something, she's a master of something, she comes in the thing, shaking her head, laughing, grabs my phone, says, go up there and get your suit on and meet me by the tree. Run upstairs. It's 90 degrees in Illinois, right? I run up the stairs, put on I got a wedding funeral suit. This is it. Okay, so I got two shirts, one for the wedding, one for the funeral. And I put it all on. By this time, you know, I got my pants off, you know, everything's off. I put on my shirt and my thing, and I've got my steel toe shoes there. I'm in my shorts. I thought, what the hell? I just threw my things on and threw the laces in my steel toe shoes, ran outside. I'm in my fancy outfit, in my shorts, in my steel toe shoes, and that's the picture that's in the program. So while they asked me for a bio, I'm doing my bio. I'm sitting there with a blank piece of paper, no idea what I've done in my life, you know. So I'm not the deacon of the church. I'm not the PTA manager. I don't know. Anything I have ever done has been organized through our work, okay? I work, and that's what I do. I'm passionate about our job. So in doing that, I understand what they said. I am relatable to everybody in this room. This business makes people work. People work hard in this business. I'm the guy that does the payroll on every other Friday, right? I'm the guy that has to make sure for 24 years that there's money in that account. I'm also the guy that sells the tower cranes. I'm also the guy that purchases the tower cranes. I've got a huge group of people behind me, the scenes, that help us on the erection dismantles. Tim Scott, Rod Vollmer, Rob Gossett, Dave Barry, Jason Webinar. There's a whole group of people around me, but they're smarter than me. I'm persistent, but I'm not the sharpest cookie. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the sharpest tool in the box. We've realized that from my selfie deal. So I surround myself with smarter people than me, and that brings me to my co-presenter. Dr. Mo is a PhD in engineering, and he's brilliant. He's one of Wolffkran's lead engineers. He has been on some of the biggest projects in the world. And so I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Mo for a little bit.
Well, that was cool. That was cool. Yeah, thank you so much, Randy. I think that the message is clear. The idea is that it's not just selling a crane, it's creating a partnership with your customers so that we're always together supporting each other. So now let's start. So we're going to start with a very simple quote here. The buildings we create inspire us and reflect who we are as a society. And we feel this actually with our customers, with our employees, everybody. So that's why we're really happy to be here together. So our presentation is very simple. We're going to start with a very short construction market outlook for the United States, showing here a very interesting map with the states. This is for the expected growth for the 2018 in comparison to 2017. We can see this very clear from the colors. The darker the color, the better the growth is going to be in 2018 in comparison to last year. So by looking there, we can see in the South region, it's the best region growing in this year, followed by the West area, Midwest, and finally ending up with the Northeastern area. So this year, we are expecting 13 states to have a growth above 10% in comparison to last year. On the top of the list is Nevada, for an example, for 16%. We've got Kentucky, 13%. We've got the Wyoming, 12%, and the New Hampshire for 14%. On the other side, we've got also some states that are going to expect it to have a decline in 2018. On the top of the list, we've got the gray states, we've got New York, we've got South Dakota, and Nebraska. To go further and give you a more clear idea of what's going to happen in the next couple of years till 2021, we can see that with respect to the metropolitan statistical area, we have a great growth in the next couple of years in the east and west coasts. And this growth is going to be concentrated on the four main sectors: the single-family housing sector, the residential improvements, power, and education. And the main reason for this specific growth in these four main segments is also influenced by the reduced unemployment rates in the United States. There are going to be the increase in interest rates, and of course the taxes improvements taking place at the moment. Let's go into numbers, which I really find so optimistic, since I'm an optimistic person. So when we look at the numbers here, we can see that in 2021, we have an expectation of $1.4 billion as a forecast for new construction. These are really good values, look very positive. But we should not ever forget the downturn that happens in 2009, and we have to believe that it's a cycle. That's why the message here is, yes, we have to be optimistic in the next years, but at the same time, never forget that this cycle will turn somewhere, and construction firms and tower crane manufacturers must always be proactive and consider what are the mega trends that's going to happen in the next years, and how can we make sure that when the cycle turns around, we have a chance to grow. And this is what we're going to talk about later. What we find very interesting is, since we are working on actually most of the high-rise projects worldwide, we're involved in many projects in all around the globe. So we said, why don't we show you how is the skyscrapers market in the US looking like? So we can see that New York City and Chicago are the main players when we talk about the high-rise. The first, of course, the highest building we have here is the One World Trade Center for 540 meters. That's about 1,800 feet. Yeah, there's buildings now planning till 4,000 feet, but we're on, you know. I think that in comparison to other projects, we're doing very well here. One of the interesting information that we can share is not just looking at the American market. Why don't we look at the global market? For 2017, the United States has the sixth biggest project in the world, and this is going to be the Hudson Yards in New York City with a budget of $20 billion, which is very, very good. Following, of course, the market, the biggest projects in the world now are going to be in the Asia region, concentrated in China, in India, then comes the Middle East, and followed by Europe, and then comes the US. So let's just go more deeper and see what are the main impacts that are really influencing our construction markets. We can see that the main four poles for this is the cost, time, quality, and safety. Let us divide the mega trends taking place in the construction market into 5 main concerns. The first concern we have is the market and customer. Customers are getting very complicated. We've got new buildings. New buildings look very creative, innovative, but they're very difficult to build. And this is really influencing us as a tower crane manufacturer in order to provide our customers with the consulting they need in order to build these buildings, which we provide for free, by the way. Then comes the demand in developing markets. The demand in developing markets is pushing a lot of international or global construction companies to work all around the world. Now you've got companies based in the US or in Europe, working in Africa, in the Middle East. So how will these companies interact into the market and adapt to their new customers? That's a very important point that must be considered, because this has winners and losers. Who's the winner and who's the loser? This depends on their adaptability. We've got as well the second important trend here, our politics and regulations. We're all facing problems with getting our machines, getting the approvals for construction projects or for tower cranes. So how the politics and regulations are going to make our life easier. It's very important, of course, to concentrate on corruption and how corruption is changing the regulations point, and the regulations are getting very strict, and we have to deal with them. That's a very important point. Sustainability. When you talk about sustainability, in the past, sustainability was just like a characteristic that you may desire, but nowadays it's a requirement. And how will the sustainability change the design of buildings, and will definitely also has a great influence on the construction process that has to be considered. We've got nowadays hazards like floodings and earthquakes, and how these are influencing the designs of even tower cranes. I remember that we have nowadays a lot of customers, especially in the earthquake zones, where we have to provide them with very special calculations for earthquakes, or when there are hurricanes. Like in Florida, we have here customers that have cranes in Florida. We provide them with special hurricanes, wind loads, or in Hong Kong for the typhoon. So we have to be flexible in order to be able to grow in the next years. Otherwise, everybody's going to face problems. When we look at the society and workforce, this is the fourth trend we're facing, where people are getting older. We have aging problems. Aging is definitely changing the construction designs of buildings. They're changing as well the workers. Are we finding the right workers? Do we have enough people to work? That's the question. And we're facing, of course, we call them the talent crisis, finding the talents in the construction business. Last and not least, we've got the technology and innovation in construction. We have nowadays new building materials, we have reinforced concretes, we have special prefabricated components. All these issues are being high challenges, especially for high-rise projects, where loads are getting bigger, where distance is getting bigger for cranes that are climbing internally or externally. All these issues must be correctly taken into consideration in order to pass in the next years. One of the interesting studies that was conducted by the Boston Consulting Group for Construction Department and the World Forum, they were discussing a very important issue. How are the impact and the likelihood of new technologies influencing the construction market? Of course, there's a lot of different technologies, for an example, with drones, or we've got like 3D printing of components. That's not coming maybe sooner. But when we look at the upper right corner, we have the main technologies that are having the maximum likelihood, and they are really impacting our current technologies in tower crane industry. And this is going to be divided into 6 main parts. Today we had a lot of discussions about the real-time collaborations, how construction sites are being controlled and tracked real-time. And this has a great influence. We are trying to allocate our resources. Everybody has limited resources. How can we get the maximum benefit of these resources? We need the real-time as well for tower cranes. Tower cranes must provide real-time data. And the question is not just providing data, like we saw today in the 3D modeling presentations. It's getting the information out of this data, getting the intelligence to customize my service and maintenance programs. It's getting the use of the data in order to make this real-time process really valuable for the manufacturers and for the construction sites. We've got a lot of prefabricated components. When we go, the higher we go, the more we have to deal with prefabricated components. Such components are very heavy. And I've recognized from the past years that all the high-rise projects are using big cranes in comparison to the past, which means that load capacity is going higher. Then we have other problems like advanced materials. When you're dealing with reinforced concrete, that means that the building is going very fast. Is my crane capable of climbing as fast as the building is climbing? That's a very important issue. We don't want to have the tower crane delaying the whole construction project. Everything has to be synchronized. We have to manage the whole process, not just look at the 3D modeling and try to understand what's happening. We have to plan the scheduling in the future as well. Wireless monitoring, and we talked about this. How can we use the data we're getting in order to be more safe? Wireless monitoring is not just giving you control without being there, but it gives you safety. You have to be, I always call it, it's like the black box. You have to have a black box on your machine so that when something happens, you can go back to this black box and see all the data and make sure that you are on the safe side. Now we're going to go into the interesting part, and the idea was that it's not fair that we talk as Wolffkran employees about the company. So now Randy as a customer, we're going to discuss how Wolffkran has some solutions to adapt to the market needs.
Okay. Cost, time, quality, and safety. I get passionate about what Wolffkran's doing here. If I get a little windy, the people that know me, give me a sign. Jason, Corinne, Matt, Hannah, give me a whatever. Not that finger, but so. Extended climbing systems, internal climbing, okay? So the internal climbers that Wolff has designed is 87 feet, okay? 4 hours, internal climb, 87 feet. All we've learned here today, the contractors that are utilizing these cranes are on such time crunches. These jobs are started way after they should have been started and have to finish the same date they predicted, or there's huge demurrage charges. 4 hours to climb, internal climb, 87 to 88 feet, okay? And what that does is, it eliminates the time that it takes. The cost If you're only climbing 65 feet, that's more climbing frames, it's more substructure. That substructure is an expensive proposition. So if you can go 88 feet, I mean, that's the thing to do, okay? That's a new type of system from Wolffkran. Further, works really well on their Lufford cranes. Now, another thing that they've designed is a internal locking system. It's a mechanical locking system for the Lufford cranes. So many of these high-rise projects are in big towns. They're only allowing you to climb down on the weekends. Sometimes they're only allowing you to climb down on a Sunday. Sometimes you have to leave the machine locked in up next to a building to come back the next Sunday to finish the climb down. So Wolffkran has designed a mechanical locking system so you're not reliant just on the slewing brake alone. That's a safety factor that is designed into the tower and into the load moments and can go up to, 120, 130 mile an hour.
Miles per hour? Or
yeah.
It depends on the region. We can discuss this at the end.
Yeah. Okay, here's a picture of the internal climber. It's just kind of it's hard to see on screen, but it's a wonderful system. It's a safe system, okay? And again, it can go up to 87 feet. So much of your form work is, you want to get up above your form work. Okay, another thing, they design, and a lot of the manufacturers are coming up with this, so real-time view of the current operating conditions and warning signals. So the machines now will send a text message or an email to you if there's a fault. A lot of times, if your own people are operating the machine, it's not as big a deal. But when we've got a machine on bare rent, we want to know what those faults are immediately. There's a big difference from finding out you've got a crane problem at 1:30 on a Friday rather than 3:30 on a Friday for manpower. You can alert everybody, say, hey, we've got a crane 4 hours away that may have a fault condition. We're looking into it. I'd rather know that now than before. And what else it can do is you can real-time look at the motors, how the motors, the swing motor, the hoist motor, the trolley motor, how they're being utilized, what kind of hours are actually on the motors. So it helps you with your maintenance program. You can tell on this particular job that they're cycling, so many hours on the hoist motor per month. So you can cycle your maintenance program to that in real time. And it stores the crane data for you. If you've got a machine on bare rent and there's been an incident, you can go back and look what functions was the crane doing when it happened. And it'll tell you if the crane was being overloaded. It'll tell you what the wind speeds were. It'll tell you many different things. Is there anything I'm missing on that, Mo?
Yeah, I would just like to add something because actually not in this one. We can go back to just quickly to the internal climb. But what I want to make clear here is that based on our experience in high-rise, we recognize that most of the construction sites, they are having problems between the climbing schemes of these tower cranes and the formworks. There is always a delay. You always get a phone call, we have to climb tomorrow, we have a problem, the project stops, and the project keeps stopping. Because most of the climbing for the climbing frames for the luffers, we are talking about 40, 50 feet of climbing per phase, one phase, with 2 frames. The idea is that Wolffkran developed that you can climb 88 feet using 2 frames, just a distance of 88 feet. And this gives you a freestanding height on the top for housing the big formworks, and they're giving them enough time and place to climb So then in this case, now what is my bottleneck? It's not the crane anymore. It's just pushing the crane from being the bottleneck of the climbing to the formwork system. Nowadays, we've seen that formworks are getting bigger. They're not like before, 4 or 5 meters or 10 meters. Now we've got projects going up to 20 and 30 meters of formwork. Which crane is gonna take this size into consideration? You have to increase your climbing schemes. You have to provide such climbers that can really do the job very well. That was the main point of developing this tower crane for this climber, which we also have here in Manhattan in one of our projects. One of the points as well that Randy was talking about is the locking pin system. Today we have been introduced, for an example, on these extendable wind sails or reducing the radius out of service. But the idea is we always forget that there's wind coming from front. So the idea is even if I reduce my radius, there is always a limit. I'm always limited. So how can I avoid this limitation? The only way is to think of a mechanical approach that can lock my whole crane from weather vaning. In this case, you can park the crane in the direction where there's no problems. I know it's very complicated, but in order to be able to achieve this kind of mechanical solution, you need to have technical flexibility in a company in order to make like special calculations for wind loads. You can lock this crane in Florida, you can lock this crane in New York. You can't give a specific wind speeds, you know, there's no value. It's project-based. At the end, each customer has to decide based on his height, based on the region, based on the wind zones, and accordingly we provide our consulting. So that was just an idea giving you how flexible we are to adapt to customer needs, and we hope that you really enjoy the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, excuse me.
Thanks very much, guys. Who's got a question for the last speakers? Anybody? I think you might have got away with it.
Yeah, that's good.
We put them all to sleep.
No one needs to listen to me asking anything else anyway. So thanks very much, guys. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of the conference. Thanks again to all of you for coming. Please give a final round of applause to all the speakers who I think have done very well. Thank you. Final reminder, those feedback forms, if you haven't done them, please do. Hand them in to us or leave them on the table. I'd just like to welcome back Deanne to say a final few words.
Thanks, Alex. You did a great job chairing this conference. Let's give Alex a hand. Once again, I'd like to thank SCNRA and our sponsors for making this possible, making it a lot easier for us, and for all of you for coming. We hope that our success today means that we will hold a second Tower Cranes North America conference, and the date and location will be decided in the future and will be based on those comment forms that Alex talked to you about. Finally, just a little plug, in American Cranes and Transport, we do a Tower Cranes 50 list, and we don't have 50 companies on it, but we hope to this year with your help. So this survey form is available in the room next door, or just email me, which you can find my email all over the magazine, and I'll send you a form. You'll probably be getting one anyway in the next week or so. And with that, we now have a networking drinks reception next door, and we'll be there till about 6:30 p.m., so please join us for a farewell drink. Thank you.